Good morning, Boker Tov, on this lovely Wednesday morning, the 8th of Av. It's a little damp when waking up, and it's already bright and beautiful and thankfully green. It'd be nice to get a little more rain, even though the pleasant weather to be outside is lovely, just to see the earth growing. Even though it is in so many ways, it's nice to feel that cycle, that renewal and refresh. I hope a lot of people feel renewed or refreshed this morning as we gather together to start our day. Just in a moment, we'll be ready to begin together, but it's wonderful to see everybody coming in and saying hello. Boker Tov and good morning. So wonderful to be here together this morning on this beautiful morning, the 8th day of the month of Av. Av is known not only as just the month of Av that seems to take on the character of Tisha B'Av, of the day that begins tonight, where we acknowledge so many disasters and punishments and challenges that have befallen the Jewish people over our history. But this month, it's only the 9th day of a month, still 3 weeks to go. And this month is also called Menachem Av, a time where there is a sense of comfort. And so hopefully this morning, as we prepare for Tisha B'Av, and we'll have a special Sinai streams tonight at 7, and our regular stream tomorrow at 8:30, tonight at 7 p.m. With the cantors, and tomorrow morning at 8:30, with an opportunity for us to feel the reality of the challenges of our world, and at the same time to get ready to be part of Menachem Av. To be part of a time that is comforting, a time that brings strength and perspective, and a time where, in fact, we take ownership of the need to make our world a place of goodness and blessing and comfort. But in order to strengthen us to do that, just that, let's go ahead and start our day in a prayerful way, acknowledging the miracle that I feel today. I really do, of just being here today, of just having this day, of waking up and thank God, feeling like me where my body is doing what I asked it to do so far this morning. So let's join together in the English of Asher Yetzel. Here we go. Blessed eternal God, creator of the universe, you have fashioned our bodies with wisdom, creating within us a finely balanced network. To stand before you in prayer is itself a fragile miracle. Eternal God, we praise you as the healer of body and spirit. And today, let's recite our blessing for our eternal soul, both in Hebrew and in English, noting that for those who identify as female, we say moda, and for those who identify as male, we say modeh. Let's start from the beginning. Eloi neshama shenatata bi torahi, אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה משמרה בקרבי, כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי. מודה אני לפניך, אדוני אלוהי ואלוהי אבותיי, ריבון כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות. ברוך אתה, אדוני, אשר בידו נפש כל חי, ורוח כל בשר איש. The soul that you have given me, O God, is a pure one. You have created and formed it, breathed it into me, and within me you sustain it. So long as my soul is within me, I will give thanks to you, eternal my God and God of my ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. We praise you, eternal God, in whose hand is the power of all life and the spirit of all flesh. Let's join together in our prayer for Talmud Torah, for the encounter with Torah. It's more than just study. It's an encounter, a connection that we share with each other, with our ancestors, and with our commitment to days ahead. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Va'arev na Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratcha b'finu, v'b'fi amcha beit Yisrael, ונהיה אנחנו וצאצאינו וצאצאי עמך בית ישראל, כולנו יודעי שמך ולומדי תורתך לשמה. ברוך אתה אדוני, המלמד תורה לעמו ישראל. And let's join together now in reciting and naming these sacred opportunities to create the world as it should be, to make society a place not of sinat chinam, of baseless hatred, which was such a contributor to the destructions that our people experienced in the past, but rather to avat chinam, to without looking for a return, offering loving acts to those around us, to our society, to our world. These are the obligations without measure, whose value cannot be measured. These are the obligations whose value cannot be measured. They nourish us in this world and help us to create the world to come. Kibud av va'em, to honor fathers and mothers. Ugmilut chasadim, to perform acts of love and kindness. Ashkamat beit hamidrash shacharit ve'alvit, to attend the house of study morning and evening. Achnasat ochim, to welcome the stranger. Vikul cholim, to visit the sick. Achnasat kala, to provide for brides and grooms. Ulvayat hamet, to keep faith with the dead. Viyun tefillah, to pray with sincerity. Vava'at shalom ben adam lechavero, to make peace when there is strife. The Talmud Torah keneged kulam, and the study of Torah is equal to them all. And as we've been doing this week leading up to Tisha B'Av, we continue by adding an additional psalm introduced by Boker to our prayers in the morning. And this morning, let's go back to the white side of the page on the right, the modern Boker created by Rabbi Moti Rotem, retired now in our movement in Israel, who I knew when he was rabbi of one of our congregations in Haifa. Let's join together. Blessed is the one who speaks that we might listen. Blessed is the one who acts that we might be witnesses. Blessed is the one who decides that we might accept. Blessed is the one who has mercy that we might live. Blessed is the one who removes the darkness that we might see. Blessed is the one who lives forever that we might believe. Blessed is the one who saves and delivers, that we might be redeemed. And now, knowing that Tisha B'Av, that the 9th day of Av, begins tonight at sundown, and just before that, we'll be having a special Sinai streams for Tisha B'Av at 7 p.m. tonight. Please feel free to join with us for reflections and chanting from the Book of Lamentations, the Book of Echa. But now we join in this psalm, which, while also wishing us that external pastoral sense of peace that we need, also acknowledges that part of life and having a meaningful perspective is walking in the valley of the shadow. Feel free to join with me. With the eternal as my shepherd, I shall want for nothing. I will lie down in a beautiful pasture. As I am led along restful waters, my soul will be restored. I will be guided along the paths of righteousness, serving God's higher purpose. Adonai Roi lo echsal. Even when I must walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil when you are with me. Your strength and your support comfort me. When facing my enemies, your protection stretches out before me, sustaining mind and body. Adonai Roi lo echsal. Only goodness and mercy shall pursue me all the days of my life. I will live in God's presence for the rest of my days. That is what we seek when we recite Shema, that feeling that we're in a larger, greater presence, that we can experience just for a moment a taste of unity. Our world is so scattered, so broken in many different senses, so divided against itself and against one another. As we affirm the Shema, it is words that remind us of the power of unity and of its essential goal as part of our days. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha. Vayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam. V'shivtecha b'veitecha ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וגשרתם לעוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף בתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו. וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Well, we pause now with the privilege of taking a moment to gather for ourselves a little bit of additional perspective that is based, as it will be for the next number of weeks, on versions of the teaching of Rabbi Menachem Mendel Levine of Satanov from his Sefer Cheshbon HaNefesh, his book of spiritual accounting. And we'll be choosing two of his midot, two of his personal characteristics to consider and work on each week as we move forward through Tisha B'Av and toward Yamim Noraim and toward the days of awe in this fall, toward the holidays. Even as we do, I want to pause for a moment. I was just looking again at the words that he offers of teaching just before he begins teaching these 13 characteristics. And interestingly enough, he talks about two things, about our commitment to work on who we are and to improve and to build on the gift of our essential nature that we are given by God, each and every one of us. And then he talks about joy, about simcha. On the one hand, he talks about the challenge of each day, not finding a constant ability to analyze and grow. I think certainly that's beyond me and beyond most of us to focus on it uniquely and constantly. And yet to know that every day, if every day we can have a growth moment and allow ourselves to appreciate what that means, to build on it, and to understand that we're not going to have every moment be a growth moment. Wow, what a gift that is. And it leads to simcha shel mitzvah, the joy of being part of purpose, the joy of mitzvah, the joy of sacred obligation, of finding within the gift of soul and self the responsibility to say, can I bring more of whatever goodness is within me to the fore? Can I bring it to my life? Can I bring it to the life of those who mean the most to me? Can I share it with those around me? And so I hope our learning together and the wisdom of his teaching gives us that more opportunity to do just that, which he challenges us to do. So here's a reminder of the two characteristics that we've been focusing on this week. I want to teach a little more about the first one today, leading up to Tisha B'Av. The Menuchat HaNefesh is the first one, and Plishut is the second one, but let's join together in the English reminders that he creates for us of each of these. Feel free to recite it with me. Equilibrium. Rise above small events, whether good or bad, that are not worth throwing off your spiritual equilibrium. And abstinence. Strengthen yourself against evil or corrupt thoughts. Seek purpose, not pleasure. It's interesting that he starts his introduction to these characteristics with the idea of purpose. And as you can see with his definition of plishut, of abstinence, he ends with that same focus. It's a reminder that even in this wording here that I've offered, and maybe it's not the best translation, I'll have to look again in his original Hebrew, that purpose and pleasure are in fact partners. They are not enemies. That we can seek a kind of pleasure that's based in purpose, and that brings us so much. But in order to do so, we do need equanimity, that sense of general calm, of equilibrium, a sense of calm balance. Now, notice he's not telling us, for example, not to be troubled by Tisha B'Av, which talks about these major cataclysmic events that changed the nature of the people of Israel, that in their echo changed the larger world in which we take part. It's rather about rising above small events. He talks in his teaching about this, how if we allow that sense of being troubled to echo with us over and over again, we don't need to push it away. It's a real feeling, but we do need to work to keep it in perspective, and to know that there is a difference between major events and individual small events, that if we allow ourselves to focus on them, excluding the goodness in our lives and excluding counting our blessings, then suddenly they become larger than they are. Suddenly they start to take a bigger role in our days than they could or should. And certainly at a time now when we're thrown off from our shigra, from what used to be our regular patterns, and we're still in the number of months that we're living in this different, challenged time, it's easy for challenges to seem bigger than they are. And so hopefully this can be a time of perspective. But I want to add an additional word that he teaches at the end of his teaching on Menuchat HaNefesh, on peace of the soul, on equanimity and equilibrium. And that is that Rav Levine says that in order to experience this Menuchat HaNefesh, one of the things we need is mitinut. Now, mitinut in Hebrew means moderation. Look around, read around, experience the kind of opinions and words that are characterizing the communication in our world at this time. There's a lack of moderation. We seem to live in a time, and certainly very clearly in the West or in Western culturally based societies, where moderation is in short supply, where there's a move toward polarization and extremism. And this idea of sinat chinam that I'll say more about tonight, of hatred of one who has offended us or is different or chooses to look at the world differently than we do, has been the cause of so much human suffering. One of the antidotes is mitinut. The Israeli cultural figure and singer Kobi Oz, years ago, actually now 4 years ago, recorded a podcast, a series of Israeli podcasts that I was sad didn't continue, called The Moment When I Realized That I Didn't Know Anything, where people shared key moments in their life. And he shared how he grew up in Israel in a very left-leaning, really a communist, or at least a socialist household. And then as he was growing up, a friend of his who'd spent a lot of time with him announced that he was joining a kibbutz, a traditional old-style kibbutz, the likes of which don't exist very much more, where he was giving up everything he had that would now belong to the collective, and living a life on kibbutz. And Kobe says he turned to him and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I've been listening to you all my life. And I've been listening you talk about the importance of giving away, of sharing." And Kobe recites then how, Kobe Oz, he says how he realized that he had things in life that he believed in sharing, but he also had things in life from his parents, from his background and his family that he wanted to hold on to, that needed to be just his, that he didn't want to give away. And he talks about how he realized at that moment that while it's essential to have driving principles that define our lives, we need to maintain a sense of mitinut, a sense of moderation about them, and an awareness that our principles are our principles. They're simply not the only principles or the only right principles. And he describes himself then, and I couldn't help but think of it when I saw the words, as someone who practices mitinut kitsuni, extreme moderation, that he defines as the following. He says what that means is he demands of himself that on every topic that he addresses, that he makes sure, along with the black and white, that he maintains a gray area, a sense that not all is clear and that his perspective is not the only one, and that he seeks to engender that in others and doesn't waste his time having interactions with those who do not acknowledge that the limits of human knowledge and human ethical awareness means there's always a gray area. Yes, there are extraordinary and extreme cases of black and white, right and wrong. I'm not going to go there this morning. But in most of our lives, in most of our experiences, it is in fact, I think, a beautiful obligation and perspective to practice extreme moderation, to demand awareness and gray and moderation of myself, and to seek out opportunities to share it with others and to acknowledge it in others and to build on the amount of moderation in our world. I think doing that would really be an opportunity for healing and strength in our world. And so if I can in fact click on the right slide, let's instead of going back to our characteristics, goodness, I have to find the right one, sorry. Let's instead look at our prayer for healing. I believe we can. Let me try that again. Just needed to show up for me. This is something usually that I don't have a lot of problem with. And this morning, I think I have just too many things open at the moment. So let's try this again. And there is our prayer for healing. For those in need of healing and strength as they stand for us, let's join in these words of refuah. Mishberach avotenu Avraham, Yitzhak, v'Yaakov, v'imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel, hu yirapeh kol makotenu, yiratzon milfenech Adonai Eloheinu, lachal imam ularapotam, yishlach lanu mehera refuah shlema v'ateret shalom, v'nomar amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless and heal all who suffer. May it be your will to provide healing and strength. Reveal to us the holiness of life, the wholeness of shalom, and together we say, amen. And so having had our moments to connect and reflect, we take our time to remember as well, recalling the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. During the period of Shloshim, the past 30 days, we extend our condolences to the families of Robert Filler, Ellen Fridson, Rose Rich, Benji Fruitman, Judy Gabay, Helene Frankie Springer, Margot Grossbane, Rabbi Mark Shapiro, and Jan Siegel. And on your site on this 8th day of the month of Av, we remember June Borman, Mindy Carver, Tilly Daniel, Abraham Herberman, Jenny Heichberg, Percy Katzman, Morton Lee, Alex L. Levinsky. Zichronam Levacha, may their memories be a blessing to us. Our griefs and our sympathies are mingled as we turn together towards sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemeh rabba, ve'alma divrach chiruteh, ve'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chaye dechol bet Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yeheh shmeh rabba mevarach, le'alam u'lalmei almaya. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. אלא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, ואמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all the bereaved among us, and send strength to all those who remember. And together we say, Amen. I look forward to seeing many of you and many others on our special stream tonight for Tisha B'Av at 7 p.m. And I'll see you tomorrow morning as well as we have this 8th day of Av. Let's together, each of us and all of us, make it a great day. Boker Tov.